Welcome to another edition of Here's the Pitch, sponsored by Massa's Restaurants in St. Louis, 5 locations. STLMassas.com is their website. They're open. Go in, have a sandwich, have a meal, have a cannelloni. There's no bologna in the cannelloni. STLMassas.com. You can find the menus and all the good stuff. I know my friend Mike Richter's been there and had some toasted ravioli once or twice,
Yes.
and I welcome him back. Hello, Mike.
Yummy, yummy, yummy.
People love these.
Yummy, yummy, yummy. I'm ready to get out there now. Things are open.
Get it in your tummy.
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, I cut you off as I am wont to do.
I'm so used to that. It's good.
Well, thank you again for joining me here on Here's the Pitch. People love these. I'm telling you, people are really enjoying when we open some baseball cards. We run through some old number jerseys and do a few other things. So we're going to do that again today.
Yeah, well, that's because we can relate to the people. You know, they want to talk about the same things. They want to remember the people and talk about these numbers and this downtime of baseball. It's good to bring back those memories and those thoughts buzzing in the heads. And if we can come to agreement and get some baseball, these will be the times to propel us into ultimate fandom.
That's right. And I forgot, I buried the lead. Last week I was in my Pedro Guerrero 1989 illustrated big head shirt. Today I'm wearing my Oakland A Mark McGwire. This is actual McGuire size. So if you watch on YouTube, you can watch all of our podcasts on YouTube at ST Weekly. We record these on video so you can see our faces, put it on in the background. I'll put a little video over some of the things we talk about. Just having fun digging through all the old stuff. It still fits. Look at me. I'm so handsome.
You're ageless.
That's pretty true. Okay. So I thought about doing number 28 in deference to Tommy Herr going into the Cardinal Hall of Fame, because we've already done number 30, John Tudor, going to the Hall of Fame. We did number 12 right before Bill White was elected to the Hall of Fame. So I looked at 28, didn't do much for me. I like the number 23. 23. I mean, first thing that comes to mind is what? 23.
Well, for me, this is going to be controversial because there is one for our Cardinals fans that's immediate, but I grew up, 23 is my favorite number. So I played second base. I wore 23 in lieu of not a Cardinals player. But during that 90s, the 23 was my guy in right field, Bernard Gilkey.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Ryan Sandberg.
Left field. Well, Sandberg was the reason that I wore 23. But
second base. You named your child after Ryan, which I buried that last week. When you mentioned Shawan Dunston, and then you said, they had some weird names like Ryan. I forgot to mention. You named your child Ryan.
Correct. So there's a big backstory about that, but part of it is my love for baseball and wearing number 23 and wanting to be Ryan Sandberg and playing second base. Growing up, not to mention my son was born on the 23rd, so it all kind of tied in. And when I was working in the other organization, the manager at the minor league baseball stop that I was at was also Ryan Sandberg, whereas I met his mother. So a nice little tie-in to why my son's named Ryan. But 23 has always been my favorite baseball number, and it's good going down this road because it's been a good Cardinals number here recently too, and a lot of good names on this list.
And this is good. I get to learn more about you. I didn't even know that little story. That's fun. So 23, Bernard Gilkey is St. Louisan. I think a lot of people would say David Freese is St. Louisan. So there's that tie. Yeah. But we've got two right out of the gate, two big number 23s, and that's why I like this number, because you got some sprinkled crap in there, like normal. There's a long history of the Cardinals. But that's two really big names, and we haven't really even named all the big number 23s yet. Maybe we have.
All right, this one's a little bit more loaded. It's one that's been passed around, but in a good way is that there's been some substantial stops. I maybe equivalent it, not as strong as like a 15, but maybe one tier below that.
So I'll just get started in the 40s. Max Lanier, don't remember him. He was a pitcher. Evidently, he was pretty good. Del Wilbur also wore it in the 40s. He was a backup catcher, which is going to come in play here in a second. Charlie James, another name I don't really know, but some of the older guys might know him. But then the first name that comes to mind that's familiar is Tito Francona. He didn't play a lot of games for the Cardinals. This is Terry Francona's dad. I actually met him, I think 2 weeks or 3 weeks before he died. He was in Cleveland for a playoff game against the Yankees, and he was outside talking to Reggie. Let's say I was not talking to Reggie Jackson and Tito Francona, but I did get to shake his hand. Tito Francona, so that's a fun name. But then the big one comes in 1968. Ted Simmons wears it. He's going to the Hall of Fame. I think a lot of folks, old Cardinal fans, will always think of number 23 being Ted Simmons.
Yeah, absolutely. And a little bit before that, but I mean, you got to think that, he was on a stretch where he was putting up about the same numbers of Johnny Bench, at least offensively. And, he was a guy that was a pretty solid player throughout those decades. And I think, the generation before me is going to look at that number and think that they had a superstar. And now, very rightfully, after 25 years, a Hall of Famer, and see that number going back to those decades and see the long, beautiful flowing hair and remember 23 being Ted Simmons.
I do love those videos of him where it's in slow-mo and the hair is kind of weaving back and forth. And it was always weird to me as a guy who did not really see him play, believe it or not, a little before my time, so I didn't get to see him play as a Cardinal. The numbers were there. I don't understand. I never understood why. I mean, it was him and Johnny Bench, and that was it. And because Johnny Bench was great defensively, he got that tick. But Ted Simmons, I mean, that should not be a deterrent that he played catcher and hit with those numbers. That should be like, oh, wow, he did all that while playing on the turf at Busch Stadium, and then he did it for 20 years? I mean, it just made no sense to me how – I always had these two arguments, Ted Simmons and Lee Smith. I never understood what took so long for those two guys to get in the Hall of Fame. I never understood any of the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, it makes no sense. You look at the offensive numbers, the comparisons at the time where he was doing things that Pete Rose was doing. He was, all-time catchers, maybe Piazza and Carter a little bit ahead of him. But it was mystifying, but it finally got it right. And it's glad that they're doing it in these times where the people are, for the ones where they're missing these people. Like, unfortunately, Ron Santo wasn't able to enjoy his time going in. Now at least they're getting some of these right where people can get in and enjoy it fully.
Yeah, let's make sure we talk about those Cubs, Mike. We all know you named your child Ryan. So Ted Simmons, great, Hall of Famer. Too bad we can't see that ceremony this year. I guess next year it'll be a fantastic. So they followed up with Orlando Sanchez. That's the most generic Latin name I think I've ever heard. I don't know this player, but he wore number 23 after Ted Simmons.
May have to like a perfect pitch runner in the 90s or 2000s. I don't remember Orlando Sanchez at all, but
I will have to ask again. I always say Buddy Bates was the equipment manager at this time. At some point, we'll get him on to clarify some of these odd questions. How did you give Orlando Sanchez Ted Simmons' number? Next was Tom Nieto. Tom Nieto, going with our backup catcher theme here, on the 1985 team. That means you're a winner to me. Heck of a year, Tom Nieto. I remember him being decent. I mean, Darryl Porter played every day, it felt like. Again, the 85 team is where I started sort of my following of baseball. So starting the backup catcher. Anything on Tom Nieto?
No.
I think
he's a good team.
I believe he was, and I really do. I think he's a bullpen coach for the Twins still. And it was always in my head to go, I have to meet Tom Nieto. I've never met him, and I feel like you'd feel like this is one of those guys you'll see at fantasy camp one day. Like they need catchers. Hey, Tom Nieto, come on in. So we keep up with the backup catchers. So the next one, you probably don't remember Alan Nicely. He wore it in 1986. Okay. Longtime Red. The only thing I remember about Alan Nicely, there was a game in San Francisco. I was watching it, and it was one of those crazy Sunday wind days, and Alan Nicely was playing first base, and he runs into foul territory, and he gets under it, and the ball conked him on the head and bounced into the stands. And that's what I remember about Alan Nicely.
That's probably what most Cardinals people who remember him would remember.
I guess it wasn't nice that day. But Alan Nicely, number 20. The next number 23 was Dan Dreesen in 1987. Again, wasn't here long, but made a big impact on that team in 87. So I love me some Dan Driessen. I remember some big hits in 1987. Jack Clark went down. Here comes Dan Driessen. He gets some big hits. He was fairly important during that run. It's like we always say on these championship teams, when they win and a guy like you remember Dan Driessen. You don't remember Alan Nicely, but you do remember Dan Driessen because he's on a championship team.
Yeah, those kind of moments cement players that might not have a shining star for a regular season or a long tenure, but you remember the moment. So
as we talked about maybe doing number 28 this time, but we're going to save that because it just didn't feel right. And so Dan Driessen's here in 87. In 88, number 28, Tommy Herr gets traded to the Twins. It was the weirdest trade too. I remember early in the season, it was like in April, and Whitey basically said, I need more bat. I need more power. We lost Jack Clark. I hate Bob Horner. I don't know why Dal Maxwell brought in Bob Horner. I need another bat. So they get Tom Bernansky to wear number 23. I loved Tom Bernansky.
I hated Tom Bernansky because I loved Tommy Herr.
Oh, well. Okay.
That was my problem is, loving second baseman at the time. Tommy Herr was, on the teams that, when I got the first taste of winning in my childhood, he was a big part of. He survived the first clean house. He was still there, and he was still the ties to the teams of the 80s that were winning for me. And I felt like almost when Tommy Herr left, the winning baseball, and Jack Clark too, the winning baseball in St. Louis also kind of left for a period of time. So I embraced Tom Bernansky. I had the Tom Bernansky starting lineup in the Cards uniform, in the gray with the birds in the back. But it hurt me that Tommy Herr is gone.
I wasn't old enough to remember the Keith Hernandez trade, which had to be shocking. I've heard everyone say, obviously, and there was other reasons why. This has to be like just the first shocking, what the hell are they doing? They're getting rid of Tom. And I know I'm guessing, I didn't look, but I'm guessing he was a free agent. His career started a little earlier than Willie McGee. Like he was around in 78 and 79. So his contract was coming due. But yeah, for Whitey to trade one of his favorite guys, I mean, that double play combination of Ozzie and Tommy Herr is the reason why Tommy is going into the Cardinal Hall of Fame, and because obviously he was beloved. But yeah, I loved Bernansky came in and hit some bombs early on, and I needed some home runs from the outfield spot, so I was okay with it. This is also because I did some I don't know if I sent this to you or Tim Trokey, Professor Trokey. The Cardinals were relying on Jim Lindeman in 1987 to play instead of Andy. So they traded Andy Van Slyke because they thought Jim Lindeman would be the next guy. And it didn't work. He got hurt a lot, didn't work. He did play pretty well in 87. So then this is why you get Bernansky. But the reason why I bring up Jim Lindeman, if you go to Baseball Reference, someone has sponsored his page. And I've never seen that on baseball. Like a guy just said, I, Steve Jones, sponsored Jim Lindeman's page, which I thought was funny. And then there's a YouTube link. And if you click the YouTube link, it sends you to a page of this guy going up to Ozzie Smith going, hey, can you say hi to my friend Steve? He's a huge Jim Lindeman fan. And Ozzie's like, do what? He goes, yeah, he just tell him that you know Jim Lindeman and that it's the funniest video. Go to Baseball Reference after you watch this podcast. Check out Jim Lindeman's page. I'm on a tangent. Sorry about that.
Those are the right kind of friends. The other thing I'll remember about Bernansky is, so sent Tommy Herr away to get him, traded him for Lee Smith, which we brought up a little bit earlier. A lot of ties to some guys that are getting some notoriety.
Always weaving. So, yeah, the bat wasn't enough. We needed a closer. We get a closer for 3 years. We get Lee Smith from the Red Sox. And Bruno played pretty well for the Red Sox that year.
Yeah.
So I like that. It's a big name, Bernansky. Ted Simmons. We mentioned next guy is Bernard Gilkey. You're a big Gilkey guy. I
am.
I didn't understand. I believed I really liked him more than Ray Lankford. So when he was traded, I was a little upset because I thought Gilkey kind of had the more potential of these guys going forward, even though Ray was really kind of doing a lot of everything. I still felt like Gilkey was going to be a little bit more. And he really was in 95, so they traded him high, and he didn't do much after.
I mean, Ray Lankford is not in the first Men in Black movie. Let's just say that. It's Bernard Gilkey, and the reason why is because of the Mets season that he had that year. And and I don't know if that's the direct reason why, but it was his biggest years of his career, one of the biggest years in Mets history. And so, yeah, if you had to do it over again, you think out of the three outfielders that they had in there in the early 90s, before Ron Gant came in, it makes me crawl just thinking about that. But Gilkey was a guy that you would have loved to have around, and he was my guy, and I liked him, and it was sad, yeah, for sure.
I remember this is a podcast where I can tell stories and name drop, right?
Right, absolutely.
Okay, which I've done a million times. So the first time I met Nelly was at a Cardinal game, and he was in some sort of thing, and he looked at me, shook my hand, and goes, "Hey, man, you look familiar." I said, "Yeah, I actually struck you out twice. Gilkey and I were on the same team." He's like, "Oh yeah, man, I remember you." I said, wasn't me. I just met you like a couple minutes ago. We just did an interview, but I threw down Bernard Gilkey's name as to think that maybe he thought that anyway, because U City, they're proud from U City.
Right.
All right, so we mentioned number 23 in 1985, Tom Nieto, Dan Drysdale in 1987. The next winning year is 96 as Gilkey got traded. They bring in Mark Sweeney. Mark Sweeney was a great bench player for the Cardinals in 1996 and then was traded away. I thought he might be around longer, but and he's a guy on the Padres broadcast now. I know one thing about him is that the Cardinals television broadcast team loves him. Tom Mee and Mike Helling love this guy, so I love the guys too.
The lesser of the Sweeney brothers, though, is his brother Mike had a far superior career.
I really had no idea they were. Are they really brothers?
Oh gosh, I thought they were. Here I go with my fact checks again. I have at least 3 to 4 of these every show.
Didn't know I was doing a podcast with. I didn't know I was doing a podcast with Trump.
Well, facts don't matter, but I've always thought that, and I believe that's true. So we'll put a yellow highlight on that now, and if it's green, I'll let you know.
Okay. And Sweeney, one of those guys, I remember in 1996, Channel 11 did like a great Cardinal fun year thing, and they had these home movies, and Sweeney was in all of them, along with Mabry, along with Jordan. The 96 team is so much fun to me. I used to do a lot of research on that team. They were going to implode. Tony La Russa came in just guns a-blazing, and a lot of guys did not understand his way and didn't go well. And at one point, Tom Pagnozzi evidently had to go in, have a meeting, and just kind of tell Tony, listen, we got to chill out with this group. It was a good group. I mean, he had all of his Oakland guys, but there's some fun. And then you had Ozzy's last year. But like Mark Sweeney's one of those guys, if you look at like 2011, which we will in a little bit, you just needed like a Ryan Terrio or a Gerald Laird. You had a Mark Sweeney. God bless you, Mark Sweeney. 90. So he's gone by 97. Don't know where he went. I think the Padres. But we get Phil Plantier. Now, I always loved the Cardinals having Phil Plantier because this was a guy I remember as a kid going, oh, my God, I can't wait to watch Phil Plantier. And he would just swing up, and he was doing Matt Carpenter before Matt Carpenter was doing Matt Carpenter, basically. A lot of launch angle, but not much launch.
Gotcha.
Do you remember Phil Plantier?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll move on then. Luis Ordaz in 98. So during the McGuire stuff, yes. Do you remember Luis Ordaz coming in and then hugging Big Mac? He was number 23 in 1998. Okay, so the big...
a lot of good images of him.
Right. So Brunansky, Ted Simmons, Bernard Gilkey. We lose it a little bit, but now Feenando Tatis in 1999. I actually came over in 98. Yeah. Feenando Tatis had a huge 99.
Yeah, loved me some Feenando Tatis. He was just like kind of an odd fit for the Cardinals, but then he started emerging and just became this like kind of larger than life figure over there and solid player. And then of course, obviously the 8 RBI in 1 inning, and 2 grand slams in 1 inning. So it's Feenando Tatis.
I believe he brought over frosted tips too. Like I don't remember ever seeing that until he had them.
Right.
He was an old guy, but he could hit the ball far. And now his son is like 8 feet tall.
And really good at baseball.
I got him in my minor league draft that I'm part of with you. Thank you. If we ever see baseball ever again. I don't think we're going to see it this year. but we're not talking about that.
Ooh, please don't say that.
Tatis, if he didn't get hurt, it was 2000, 2001. Remember in Philadelphia, he tore up his knee, and it really ruined his career. I mean, I think he went to Texas. He went to Philly and Texas. Had some decent years. I think he had a pretty good year in Texas, but thought he would be. I think he thought he'd be better. It didn't really turn out the way it would. You thought it would. Am I having a stroke? I don't even know what's going on here. Some guy named Luis Sataria, wore it in 01. No. Man, I don't practice Sataria. I don't have a crystal ball. In 2002, 2002 is a fun year we should talk about at some point because Walt Jocketty was trying everything. This was coming off of 01. He brought in Mike Timlin in the bullpen. Then they brought in Jason Christensen. They tried Sterling Hitchcock. But number 23 in 02 was Jamie Wright. I totally kind of forgot about Jamie Wright, but big, tall guy. I think, was he a Brewer and a Rocky, but only here for a cup of coffee, but he did wear it in 02.
And that was not the Wright that was on the Indians, right? That was a different Wright.
That's Jarrett Wright.
Jarrett Wright.
It's like you're testing me every time with this.
Are they brothers? Is everybody's last name brothers?
We need to do something on the Wright brothers at some point. I think they flew. Didn't they fly planes and stuff?
They did.
So Jamie Wright, no memories for Mike there. Let's move on to 03 through 05. A personal favorite of mine, Cal Eldred. One of the first guys I got to work with as a former baseball player analysis. Like back at Fox, we were having like Mike Claiborne and Derek Gould come in. But at one point, I think John Mozeliak asked, "Hey, we want Cal to be part of the Cardinals. We don't have a spot for him. Can you make him help us put him in your analyst chair?" And he was just he's just sitting watching him watch pitchers. You would say to yourself, well, this guy needs to be a pitching coach sometime. I mean, what is he doing sitting here jacking around with Trokey and Pat Paris and Max Linewan, like as we're throwing like spitballs and throwing popcorn at the TV? Like he was watching guys going, wow, his arm, it's like here and it needs to be here. Like, how do you see that? Right. So Cal Eldred, big, and again, you talk about championship seasons. He was part of the 04 season. He was part of the 05 season and had one of the craziest like ways out of baseball with this heart thing that he had in 05.
Yeah, and he's like a top 10 nice guy too, right?
Totally. And it's crazy, because I remember him, obviously he was a Brewer his whole time, and you forget like he was like a top 10 first-round draft choice, and he was a starting pitcher who threw 200 innings every year and had some really big moments there in Milwaukee, but we never really got to see it. So yeah, I could do a whole thing on Cal Eldred, but go Royals. He's a pitching coach for the Royals, and I think that'll help Matheny out a lot. For some reason, I didn't see him and Lilliquist just meshing.
Right. Or much of the roster.
Maybe it'll work over in Kansas City. They're okay with like 70 wins. They'll be fine.
I really wish them luck. I mean, people that you root for, they get a fresh start, new outlook, a city that wants to be reinvigorated with baseball. They had some very good years, and I mean they had a really good fan poll. And then just like those small market teams that aren't the Cardinals, it's always cyclical and they have to start over. But I'm excited for the Royal staff and hope to see some good things.
I do like telling stories here on the podcast and dropping names. We talked about Cal Eldred being one of the first analysts to come over and kind of be a former player, so getting to pick his brain on those kind of things was fun. But the year in 2011, Mike Matheny became an analyst. So with Cal, you could literally show him giving up home runs and show some stat like who hit him awful. So the first day Mike Matheny worked, we were playing the Padres, and I showed all these Padres that were still in the Padres that like Mike Matheny couldn't hit, like all these pitchers. And Mike didn't seem to enjoy this part of the show. And at the end of it, I'm going, come on, Mike, that was fun. And he goes, I didn't find it too fun, Brad.
Wow.
It sounded like Batman. That's what he always sounded like. So I realized we weren't going to
at least let you show the footage of him spitting out his chiclets, because that's the best Mike Matheny image today.
And we never really – I always was more – I didn't get that. He was fun to work with, though, because he was you wanted just to get him out of his element, and he just wouldn't do it. But he was number 22. We're talking about number 23.
Right.
Cal Eldred, 23.
Right.
In the next year, in 06, Anthony Reyes wore number 23. I mean, what are the two biggest moments? Like game one of the World Series and then a one-hitter. And then there's not much, but he was just so much potential. I just remember back then thinking, I don't know about this Wainwright guy. He seems tall and lanky, but this Reyes, this is the guy that's going to be here 15 years.
Yeah, and he had the high socks and everything. Just said, like, this is a kid you want to root for and you get behind. And, hey, his career didn't pan out like many would hope. But if you win a game in the World Series that you're not supposed to win, I mean, you can't – there's no going back on that.
You take on Justin Verlander. You get, 17 in a row. And just me thinking he'd be around 15 years shows my baseball scouting knowledge there. I'm no Charlie Meyer. That's a joke for just maybe a few people in our fantasy league.
Right.
Charlie Meyer knew. Anthony Reyes, now a fireman, I believe, still in San Diego. Also had a band. What I love about Anthony Reyes, actually, now I think about it, like every city, if we would be in like the California area, like in San Diego, I believe he had like some people, like family that were firemen. In LA, there was all these rockers hanging outside the locker room. We're like, Reyes, must be Reyes. And here comes Anthony Reyes. He like knew this whole band. I don't know what the band was. I'm assuming they're bigger now than they were then, but that's what I remember about Anthony Reyes. Number 23. Brian Barton. I think it's amazing that we had a Brian Barton and a Brian Barton at the same time. That's got to be never happened in any ever sports. You may have to look that up for me, Mike, to see if.
Right. Brian Barton is the one that nobody remembers because he wasn't a brain scientist.
Rocket scientist Brian Barton.
Yes.
Brian Barton was actually, I believe, the player of the month in April of 08, May or 09, or he was the rookie of the month. But he had like a crazy start and then sort of fizzled. But good guy, nice guy, and he wore number 23.
He was also an opening day starter, I think, for one of those years as well.
Yeah, it might have been 08 or 09. Probably had to be 08 because the next 23 was David Freese. And now we talked about this last time. He wore number 12 first and then number 23. Everybody loves David Freese. Who doesn't love David Freese?
Right. How could you not? I mean,
future Cardinal Hall of Fame. I mean, he's like one of those guys. Give him the jacket now. You don't need a waiting period. Let's just give him the jacket.
Right. Exactly. And the best thing that could happen to David Freese is getting traded out when he did, because that was kind of like a brief, abrupt ending, and he got to go on and have a solid career. Just retired from baseball. But it was awesome. I don't know if you saw that somebody paid Nelson Cruz money on Cameo to wish him a happy birthday just about a month ago during this quarantine. And he's an icon. He's got some of the biggest moments in Cardinals history. He's homegrown, and and the 23 on the new jersey that came out and the cream with the gold on it. Probably one of the best-selling jerseys that St. Louis has ever had.
Is there anyone more popular than him? I guess Pujols maybe. But then everyone loves David Freese. Like there's never been continual standing ovations each year after he's left. Like he comes in as a Pirate, oh, standing ovation. Dodger, oh my goodness, we last at bat maybe. Oh, we got to give him another one. I mean, no one has ever. I guess do you know the only one I can really think of actually. For that now in my memory was Willie McGee. I remember every time he came back through the mid 90s, that happened, and that's really the only time I can think of. But in the current day, I think David Freese is the most popular Cardinal of this generation. I would say. I'd
say, yeah, for sure.
I mean, 2 big hits. What he did in that 2011 playoff series, I think they showed Game 6. I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. They showed Game 6 on ESPN, and then they did sort of a mini post-game with Scott Van Pelt and Tim Kirchin. He has the most runs, most RBIs, and best slugging in any postseason ever. Like
it wasn't just one moment. It was
he did it all. He was like, I think he was 1 for 8 in the first 3 games of the NLDS. He was not hitting well, and then Roy Oswalt, Game 4, he hits a home run to center. That was the rally squirrel day, and I don't know what it was about the squirrel and David Freese, but they're interlocked forever.
Fortunately or unfortunately, as Kevin Dibble would say.
So then a guy like that leaves. The next logical guy is Ed Easley to wear that number.
Absolutely. Right.
Ed Easley
make that transition.
Is one of my favorite names. I don't remember much of him playing. I know a lot of these backup catchers didn't get much time because Yachty was pretty much like, I'm fine, I'll play. So Ed Easley came up for a cup of coffee, but that's a great. I mean, that's like a name out of the 1910s. You know, there's old Ed Easley there.
Right.
Which takes me to my rant here. This is my list of backup catchers of the 2000s. I'm going to run through some names and just Mike Rose, 06.
Can we finish 23 first?
Ozuna. Who cares?
What do you mean, who cares?
I don't care about that guy. Marcelo Ozuna. I was trying to weave. Yes, Marcelo Ozuna wore it for 2 years. You're a fan.
Yeah, I mean, this was one of the biggest, I guess, free agent acquisitions under our offseason acquisitions to go into a season from John Mozeliak. It was the big dog that was going to come in and fix things and make them on par with what was going on in the rest of the division. And this was supposed to be the guy. He was on the Florida team, and he had led in RBIs. He had won a Gold Glove, and this was a guy that everybody was supposed to fall in love with from the start. And he had the shoulder issues. The fielding wasn't there. He carried the team sometimes with his bat, but I feel it's an unfortunate flop. Lost him in free agency, didn't sign his qualifying offer, got less than the qualifying offer. Probably should be back in a Cardinals uniform this year and isn't. I just one of those things where, for a lot of years, a lot of things worked out for the Cardinals. This is one I think is one of those things when you see what Christian Yelich is doing for the Brewers that's going to sting for a bit.
You think it's the whole signing and having Ozuna here for 2 years is a flop?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought he was decent, and obviously wasn't what I was hoping, like the 37 homer, 120 RBI guy and the 500 slug guy. But I thought he'd be better. It sounded like the Cardinals just didn't have enough to get Yelich. I know Mo. After Yelich had his last couple of years, he said, "Well, we didn't have what the Milwaukee Brewers had to give up," and so I could see that. But I remember wanting Ozuna over Yelich back in those days. Anyway, I wanted Stanton first. But right. I think I wanted Ozuna second. Yelich I didn't see this coming out of Yelich myself.
And I'm not saying that you went Christian Yelich instead. I'm saying what the Brewers have got out of Yelich, you'd hope that you would have got something close to that out of Ozuna, a guy that you got over here, you got on somewhat of the cheap, and would have had a second contract, and you'd be happy giving them a second contract and somebody that you can plug in at 3-4 every day. And you have no questions about it, and can be a star for your organization. That didn't happen.
I would have totally kept him. I would have. I don't think he wanted to stay after he only got a 1-year qualifying offer. I would have offered him 2 years, but they believe this all doesn't matter right now. But I guess they believe that Dylan Carlson is the next thing, and they're going to play him. Hey, is that Ryan?
Hey, it is Rhino. Come here, big guy.
Hello, Ryan. Welcome to
baseball.
Welcome to Here's the Pitch.
He's wearing a baseball shirt.
Look at that guy. He's big. He's getting bigger.
Yeah. Ouch. Yeah. Orange.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for number 23. That was exciting. Yeah. And there's number 23 himself.
What number is it, buddy?
And there goes the child.
Yeah.
That's cute. Well, that was fun. It was good seeing Ryan. I haven't seen Ryan in a while. We're all quarantined.
That was good timing, too, right, as we wrapped up 23.
Yeah, you can see this on YouTube. You can see Mike's young child. He's very handsome. He looks like his mother, luckily. So I'm going to skip the catcher thing because it's a long list, and at some point we'll get to it. The next thing I had on the agenda, I have another two topics, and we'll be done. Hopefully you have time, Mike. I always have to ask.
Yeah, we're good.
So we'll open some baseball cards at the end, but the next topic I had was top 4 summer rentals. So topic I came up with back in the day, I was thinking, who are the best Cardinals who came in mid-season and then they weren't back for the next season? They were summer rentals. I had a list of 7. If you don't mind, Mike, I'm going to do 4, and then I have one
Okay.
Because after I looked at the numbers, some of them just didn't. I'll give you some. How about I'll give you some? I'm going to give you number 4 through 1. I'll give you some honorable mentions, and then I'll tell you who I think's number 1, and then we can debate.
Okay.
At number 3. Okay, I have. Let's just say that number 2 is a tie with 3 people in it. I had Cesar Cedeno in 1985. Came over from the Reds August 29th for Mark Jackson. I don't remember Mark Jackson. Cesar Cedeno at 434. He slugged 750. He had 6 homers, 19 RBIs, and only 76 at-bats. 85, again, is one of my first years watching baseball. I think Mike's a little younger than me, so he probably doesn't remember Cesar Cedeno. No. But it felt like, as a kid, when this guy came up, every time he was going to have a base hit. And then he was gone, and he retired. He was an older guy. I didn't even know who he was. Like was he a rookie? Did we just call him up? But he was a longtime Astro, and I didn't know this. Cesar Cedeno, good summer rental. You have nothing on him, probably. You probably don't remember.
I don't.
Number 7, which there's not many number 7s. Matt Holliday and Cesar Cedeno. All right, how about another summer rental?
Go ahead with your list. But, I mean, I could almost make the argument that Matt Holliday should be on this list.
Not a summer rental. He stayed around after. So it's got to be rent.
It's got to be done. So not just acquired and done.
So, yes, okay. Thank you. See you later. Like Will Clark in 2000.
Yeah, I'm with you.
July 31st, 2000, traded for Jose Leon to Baltimore. Never heard of him after that. He slugged 655, has a 1.1 OPS, hits 345, only 170 at-bats, 12 homers, 45 RBIs. I think he hit 3 homers in his first 3 games that he started. And I when he was done, I was like, come back. We want you to come back. Why don't you come back? And he retired after that year. But we talked about Will Clark a few episodes ago, but this was one of those first Walt Jocketty, holy shit. Well, I guess after McGuire. He did the McGuire one. So this is I'm sorry if Ryan, your child, is still around. And
he's not.
Probably hasn't heard words like that in that house.
He's probably hearing worse right now in the kitchen.
But Will Clark was huge in 2000, and that was one of those, wow, they're definitely, and Will was in the end of his career. He wasn't really doing the same things he was doing early in his career.
But he got revitalized, and it was awesome to see.
And evidently he just beat the shit out of J.D. Drew like the whole time. All right, so number 2, I have a tie for 3 people.
Okay.
2011, Edwin Jackson, Octavio Dotel, and Arthur Rhodes. 3 pitchers that come over, different trades. Jackson and Dotel were part of the Toronto big trade for Colby Rasmus. And then Arthur Rhodes was just a free agent pickup, I think, in August. But without those guys, you don't win the World Series in 2011. I can't decipher between the 3 of them. I put them all here at number 2.
They all feel like the same package that, they came in at a time. I think Arthur Rhodes was on Texas earlier in that year.
Yeah.
So no matter what, he was going to get a ring.
That's right.
But yeah, Dotel. I think Dotel was such a huge part of that bullpen. Really solidified the back half and through the 7th and 8th. A big one there, and then Belliard. He gave life to a position that was lifeless from that as well. So yeah, I think that's a good group. I think they belong together. It's kind of like a stable of players from the summer rentals from that.
The 4 horsemen, maybe.
If we did, I'm trying to think. There was the Blue Jays package that came over as well, and they brought Zubchinski.
He was part of this.
Yeah. Okay.
He was here a few more years. Does not count as a summer rental.
Right. So that was Jackson, Zubchinski, and was there one more?
Corey Patterson, who we've talked about here before.
Oh, yeah. So he would have been a part of that as a rental because he was gone.
I didn't add him.
Dropped the fly ball.
Didn't add him to this list. I love Corey Patterson. Nice fella. Not part of the list. And then I looked. If we weren't doing summer rentals, you could go back. Nick Punto was brought in that offseason. He was only here 1 year. Ryan Terrio was brought in on a trade. Only here for 1 year. Gerald Laird. There was a bunch of guys only here for 1 year. But these are summer rentals. They came in the summer. We rented them and then moved on. So that's my number 2. I put those at the tie. And I made number 1, Jeff Weaver. Brought in over. Why he's great.
3.
Yeah. In 2006, he was not good. He wasn't real good in 2005. He wasn't really good and he was just like Terry Evans is who we traded to Los Angeles Angels to get for him. His numbers aren't great. It was like 5-4 during the regular season, but he had 3 postseason wins. He had a really good September, and then he was on the mound for Game 5 of the World Series where he pitched 8 innings. I mean, when you have a moment like that, you ascend to number 1 on Brad's list.
And he beat Tom Glavine, I think, when in the NLCS, if I remember. That was one of his big starts. He beat Glavine in his first start in the NLCS, and it was like, wow.
It was crazy that Mets team had Tom Glavine, Pedro Martinez, yet we saw Steve Traxel, a lot of Steve Traxel, and I can't remember who else was.
Perez.
Oliver Perez, Game 7, right? Yeah, and any lefty would beat the Cardinals up. So the only I don't know if you had any memorable honorable mentions. I don't know if you noticed this, and
I'm still trying to get the confines of this. So you research it a little bit more than I did. I was thinking, guys that came in the summer, and that's not the case. It's guys that came in the summer and are no longer there. So it really shrinks the pool because everybody wants to stay a Cardinal, right?
That's exactly the point of this. Chuck Finley in 2002 was on my original list. He came over in mid-02. Big guy. Everybody started looking up Tanya Katayan pictures when he showed up.
Right. That's what you remember about Chuck Finley.
Ronnie Belliard, you mentioned, I think, in your trade, but I think you were just saying names. But Ronnie Belliard 06 is the same. His number, so after I looked at his numbers weren't great, but he had that one huge play, and he was pretty stabilizing to second base. So honorable mention, Ronnie Belliard. He was traded for Hector Luna on July 30th, 2006. He was one of our trade deadline guys in 06.
Okay.
John Smoltz was another I had thrown out there as an honorable mention in August 19th, he was picked up as a free agent. Boston had released him, and that could have been the way his career ended. But then he comes here. I believe he didn't start Game 3 of the NLDS, but he did pitch in that, so that was his last game. But he was pretty good. So those are my honorable mentions.
All right, very cool.
Summer rentals.
Yeah.
The Big Four.
More about it, but I think that's a pretty good list. Like nobody off the top of my head really jumps out outside of that. Again, a lot of guys get re-signed and we have them, either at the beginning of the season or the next year. So.
Well, it was funny. I'm usually negative, so I started jotting down worst summer rentals. I have those. Ooh. So I'll give one because I didn't want to run through. But I think my least favorite one is Justin Masterson in 2014.
Who was it?
Justin Masterson. He's a Cleveland pitcher who kind of.
And we gave up one of the outfield prospects to the Indians at that time.
Kaminsky maybe at that time. I don't know.
Yeah, we traded them 2 guys in succession. One was Ramsey and one was Kaminsky. And I'm trying to think which one went for which because one got Westbrook and the other one got Masterson.
Well, this was a bad if this was Airbnb and this was your summer rental, you would give 1 star and you'd have to contact the owner of Justin Masterson.
He was just damaged goods. Yeah. I mean, he was a good pitcher before then, but we just got a shell of what the guy was. God, I almost forgot about that.
I know, and that's why I was looking these up. Brian Fuentes, 2012. I don't want to go through my whole. I don't want to. But he was a summer.
Like a 6+ ERA, and he was coming off being at least he'd be a loogie guy. No, he couldn't get anybody out.
His form was kind of Mark Mulder-ish there at the end. Well, hopefully people are enjoying this trip down memory lane. What we like to do at the end here, Mike, on Here's the Pitch, with Mike and Brad, but normally just Brad. But Mike's been very good to come on and join. He's enjoying himself, it looks like, with his child, and we're going to open some baseball cards.
Let's do it.
Now, I pick them because I own the lot here. I'm going to have to get some more. I don't have much left. I have looks like a 90 Donruss, 88 Donruss, 91 Stadium Club Tops.
Let's go 91.
91. These are the Stadium Club Tops. So these were printed on Kodak paper. And so they're like, do you remember these cards? Do you remember the 91 Stadium Club cards?
I do remember the Stadium Club cards. Absolutely.
I'm opening. This is me opening. They are in tightly wrapped.
Open up baseball cards, Ryan.
Ryan is helping out here during the last segment of the Here's the Pitch show. In quarantine. Oh, okay. Ryan, is being taken away by some woman with a lot of hair, a lot of screaming. Okay.
You can edit that out.
I'm not editing. Editing took a lot of time last time, so there'll be no edits. Just enjoy. I was talking and opening. First card I have here is Gary Scott.
Gary Scott.
This might have been a bad idea.
Scott's brother.
It's a bad idea. This is Gary Scott. He played for the Cubs. I remember him, kinda, but let's go next. Okay, big name. This second time this guy has come out. This one came during Matt Holliday. I opened it with him. Glenn Davis, big home run guy of the '80s for the Astros. Then he went to the Orioles, where all Davises go, and to end their career, hit lots of home runs, but don't get a lot of. Oh, look at this! The back of the card. I'm going to show the back of the card has. I guess that's his rookie card, but it shows an old Astro.
Oh, interesting.
And I can't really read well. These are it's very printed, but I'll try to figure out why that's on there. All right, next guy. I remember this guy. Wasn't great. This is Tommy Gregg. He was an Atlanta Brave. Didn't play a lot. Nice guy.
It's a rough pack.
Yeah. He looks like a nice guy, but when that's your card, when you're not really doing much in your card,
yep,
that's a bad sign. He's just standing there looking. He's actually looking longingly into the distance. I don't think I can see that. So Tommy Gregg, he was, he had 230 at-bats in 1990. At that point, 567 career at-bats. Yeah, not much going on there. This, I don't remember this happening. I should, but I don't. I've got Kirk Gibson playing with the Kansas City Royals in 1990, I guess.
So far we've had like two pretty good 80s players that are on the tail end of their careers in different uniforms. Do you think somebody's going to pull out a Yadier Molina card at the year 40 when he's 42 on, I don't know, the Seattle Mariners or something?
That would be fun. Let's see here. We had a club membership to the Top Stadium Club.
Ooh.
It's a limited time offer. You're eligible for membership to the Stadium Club. And as a collector of Stadium Club baseball, you'll like to know that Stadium Club football and hockey will... Okay, whatever. Oh, it's a good...
Sign up for this club because we haven't seen a good card yet.
We got a good one. This is a good one. I'm going to show the folks at home first. I haven't showed you, but I'm going to say best nickname maybe in all of sports. Prime time. Deion Sanders.
Ooh, all right. Yes.
That's him with the Braves in spring training. Looks like they're showing off his 1990 card. So Deion Sanders with the Braves. That's a good one.
All right.
And followed by not so good Pedro Munoz. Almost like, what was it, Orlando Sanchez?
Right, Orlando Sanchez.
This is Pedro Munoz with Twins. Don't remember, never heard of him. Bill Swift. Okay, so this is Bill Swift. Now,
do you have a Bill Swift story?
I do.
I know.
Do you?
I can tell.
Looks like he played on the Olympic team. I don't remember that. There's a YouTube channel that this person puts up Sports Center highlights from the 90s, baseball, football, and Bill Swift is pitching a ton in 1996 for the Giants. So I go baseball. It just puts you in that baseball reference hole. He won like 21 games, and he was an ERA champion for the Giants in the mid-90s. I'm like, I don't remember him being that good. I remember him going to the Giants. I'm like, oh, Bill Swift. So I had a story about him.
Nice.
Kind of sad here. We got Tim Cruz. Tim Cruz died on a boat with Steve Olin, so I don't want to make any light of that, but that was one of the guys, Tim Cruz. We'll move on. This is supposed to be fun, damn it. Got a former Cardinal here, folks. We've got Steve Lake playing for the Phillies. This is like naming off 23s, not doing so well here. Steve Lake started with the Cubs. That's his rookie.
We got the retirement package. Stadium Club.
Okay. This would have been a good get, I think, maybe back during 1991 if I was opening a Stadium Club Tops. Hal Morris.
All right. He was number 23, right?
He was a 23, although, yeah. And his rookie card, I guess, was with the Yankees. I don't remember him being a Yankee first, but I guess that's right. Let's look at Hal Morris's 19.
He wasn't traded for Paul O'Neill, was he?
Could have been. Yeah, let's see. Let's see if there's transactions here. There's not.
What year was his last Yankee year?
I don't know. This doesn't have a lot of information on these top stadium clubs. That's why I was kind of going against these. I let you do the choosing this time. I remember this guy. Cardinals couldn't hit him. Any lefty for the Expos, the Cardinals had issues with, and this is Chris Nabholz, big tall guy, number 43. I remember that. You probably don't remember Chris Nabholz. There's only 12 cards in the Stadium Club because they're printed on Kodak paper. The last one, I could never say this guy's name right. He was a Yankee and a Padre, Mike Pagliarulo. Pagliarulo.
No, I'm not going to help you either.
I wonder how Harry Carey or Phil Rizzuto handled that name. Mike Pagliarulo. Well, Stadium Club again. I didn't expect much, but I let Mike pick. We won't do that again.
No.
I mean, we had Randy Johnson, rookie. We had Andy Bennis last time. What do you? I mean, let's see here. What was the?
We got Dion.
Dion's the winner, followed by Steve Lake since he's a former Cardinal, and Kirk Gibson, but at the end of his career.
Yeah.
Well, that brings the show to the flying stop. Mike, it's been fun again. I appreciate your time. This is so much fun. I hope you're enjoying yourself.
I am.
I know people are watching. I see the views. I see that people are enjoying. It might not be a lot of people, Mike, but I think we're a niche kind of show.
It's more about quality than quantity.
Well, we're having fun. I'm enjoying it. I've always wanted just to kind of relive some names and talk about Cardinals, and Mike Richter is on board. So thank you again, Mike, and happy Memorial Day to you.
You're welcome. Same to you, and sorry for all the fake news. But we'll figure out. Maybe we'll do an episode where we'll replay all the faux pas and fact check them.
Yeah, and let's keep your kids. Let's have your kids in bed when we're doing this next time.
We'll do.
All right, that's Here's the Pitch, sponsored by Massa's Restaurants, 5 locations, STL Massa's. Again, you can watch these on YouTube, and you can hear them on any podcast app that you go to. Appreciate you listening. We'll see you next time.